Welcome back. In this video, we are going to learn how to deploy a Springboot microservices into AKS cluster using Helm and Azure pipeline. So what is Helm? Helm is the package manager for Kubernetes. Whenever you are trying to deploy your microservices into Kubernetes cluster, it is recommended to use Helm. Why? Because Helm is going to allow you to package all your Kubernetes manifest into something called Helm chart. And then using Helm chart, you will be able to deploy your microservices into Kubernetes cluster. So that's exactly what we are trying to achieve in this demo. Okay, so if you look at this diagram, we are going to create two different type of pipelines in Azure DevOps. We are going to create a build pipeline, okay, and then we will also create a release pipeline. So let's try to understand how we are going to do this. So the Azure build pipeline will check out the code from GitHub. It will automate the jar file creation. It will automate the Docker image creation. And then it will also tag the Docker image and then push the Docker image into Azure Container Registry. Okay, and then it will also package the Helm chart file as well. Okay, so that is what Azure build pipeline will do. And then the release pipeline is going to pick up the packaged chart file from the build pipeline, and then it will go ahead and then deploy microservices into AKS cluster. Right, so two different type of pipeline we are going to create. So using these two pipelines, we should be able to achieve this. So let's look at the implementation steps. Okay, so if you look at the prerequisite, we need to have Azure subscription created. Okay, everything what we are going to do, like creating the AKS cluster, creating Azure Container Registry, everything would be part of that Azure subscription. And then we will be creating AKS cluster. Okay, and then in order to do that, we need to have Azure CLI installed. Okay, and yes, we also need to have Helm installed as well. And then we need to have kubectl installed as well. And then finally, we need to have our Springboot app configured. Okay, that I have already configured in GitHub. Okay, and then how are we going to achieve it? So what are the implementation steps? You see here, okay, we need to create a resource group in Azure Cloud. And then we'll be creating AKS cluster and Azure Container Registry under that resource group. And then once the cluster is created, we would be providing full access for AKS cluster in order to download the image from ACR. Okay, and then we will create a namespace in the AKS cluster, because this is where we are going to deploy our Springboot microservices in this particular namespace inside the AKS cluster. And then we will create a Helm chart for our Springboot application. And then we will create a build pipeline and then customize our pipeline with the Helm task. And then we will also create a release pipeline, and we will customize pipeline with the Helm task for deploying application into AKS cluster. And then finally, we will verify the deployment inside the namespace in the AKS cluster. And then we will use kubectl port forward in order to access the application locally. And then finally, we will try to access the Springboot application in the browser, right? So yes, we are trying to do all of this thing, right? So let's try to achieve this one by one. Okay, this will be a little bit a long demo, but I will try my level best to customize the best it can be. Very good. So let me take you guys to my website here. So this is my website, folks, coachdevops.com. I will be posting the link right below the video as well. So let's try to understand what is Helm. So like I explained to you earlier, Helm is the package manager for Kubernetes. Okay, it is something similar to APT in Ubuntu or M in Red Hat operating system, right? So using this M or APT, we will be able to install any software on the respective operating system, right? So same thing with Helm. So using this Helm, you can easily manage your Kubernetes deployment, right? So especially when you are dealing with a set of microservices, you may end up having a lot of Kubernetes resources, right? You may end up having a lot of Kubernetes manifest file. So how are you going to structure all your Kubernetes manifest files? So this is where what you can do, you can create something called Helm chart. So when you create a Helm chart, you're going to have this director structure, right? So it's going to have a chart name, and then it's going to have a bunch of Kubernetes manifest file. All you have to do is just configure this file, and then go ahead and then make changes, and then you will be able to package it and then deploy inside AKS cluster. So that's what we are trying to achieve in this demo. All right, fantastic. So let's get started here. So obviously let me actually take you guys to my local machine here. Yeah, if you see here, I have already installed Helm. I also installed Azure CLI as well. I also installed kubectl as well, as you can see here. Okay, so these are all CLI utilities. So I will install all of them. Okay, so now what we are going to do is we need to first go ahead and then create AKS cluster. So I also simplified that as well. So if you look at my link here, so when you click on this particular link, this will take you to a shell script. So if you see here, I have created a shell script which is going to create AKS cluster. It will also create Azure Container Registry, and then it will also create a namespace as well. And then as part of the script, it will also provide the required permission for AKS cluster in order to download the Docker image from ACR as well, right? So everything is taken care. I mean, most of the task has been taken care here. Of course, if you want, you can also, like execute all this step one by one, but I just want to simplify the whole setup. Okay, so let's go ahead and then create a shell script. So I have already created a shell script here. And if you see here, this is the script name, create AKS AAR. So let me just do cat command on that. There you go. You see here, right? So that is my shell script. Okay, so I have already mentioned everything. And while creating, make sure you have unique ACR name. Okay, make sure you have a unique ACR name. If you don't have this name unique, your shell script execution will fail. Okay, so this has to be unique. Okay, perfect. So why don't we go ahead and then execute that shell script? So I'm going to go ahead and then execute it. But before that, we must log in into Azure portal. So you're going to execute this particular command. So this will take you to here, and then click on click on your Microsoft account, and that's it, right? So now we are logged in into Azure Cloud. Perfect, as you can see here. So now we can go ahead and then execute the script. So this might take easily 3 to 5 minutes. So while the cluster creation is happening, why don't we go ahead and then review our remaining steps? Okay, so yes, this is going to be created, and then this also will be taken care. I think the first 3 tasks will be taken care as part of the script. Okay, and then if you look at the next set of tasks, we need to create a Helm chart for our Springboot application. So if you see here, this is my Springboot application. Okay, I have checked in GitHub. This is also publicly available as well. I will I'll make sure this repo is available publicly for everyone. Okay, I also have a Helm chart created here, but I can actually show you how to create a Helm chart. Okay, real quick. So let me take you to my Visual Studio Code. Already created a Helm chart, that's fine. I will quickly show you how to create a Helm chart. It's very easy. Okay, all you have to do is just say Helm create, and then you're just going to mention the name of the chart. Okay, so you can say maybe my charts. Okay, so when you do that, this will go ahead and then create Helm chart for you. But let me look at the naming convention here. Let me see what is the existing chart I have. Oh, I already have my chart. So let me do one thing. Let me go ahead and then create my AKS charts. Okay, I may have this one. I already have one. Let me do one thing. Let me just go ahead and then delete that folder. Okay, so let me go ahead and then create this chart. Okay, we are going to create a chart directory with this name. Enter. There you go. As you can see here, it is creating. It is actually already created. You see here, guys. So this has created this directory. So if you like to see the content of this directory, I have already installed a utility called tree. So let's try to execute that. Let's try to view the whole directory. There you go. Can you all see that? So this is the directory name, and then it has created bunch of Kubernetes manifest. Okay, and chart.yaml file, and then you have bunch of files. Okay, so depending on the type of resources, Kubernetes resources you will be using, you will be making changes in the respective files. Okay, so in our case, since we are going to, if you look at this diagram, we are going to create a Docker image and then upload the Docker image into ACR, and then we are going to deploy that Docker image into AKS cluster, right? So all we have to do is we just need to go to our values.yaml file and then make changes in that values.xml YAML file to, we just need to update our Docker image path, because this is where we are going to upload the Docker image, and then this is the format we are going to use in order to upload the Docker image and tag the Docker image. So we need to open up this values.yaml file. So if you see here, so this is our chart directory. When you go inside, there you go, values.yaml file. Sorry, not that one, this one. Okay, so I can show you here. There you go. You see here. So currently they have mentioned in Nginx. So you just need to modify that. Okay. So I kind of know how the build pipeline is going to create the image. So it is going to have this naming convention. I kind of know. So I'm going to go ahead and then make the change. Okay. So this is the Docker image we are going to build using that Azure build pipeline. Okay. And then tagging, I want to override the tagging, from my pipeline. So I'm going to leave it like that. Don't use default. That is not recommended. But we are going to, build the Docker image dynamically, and we are also going to tag the Docker image dynamically, and then we will also, deploy dynamically as well. Okay, so I'm going to leave the tag as it is, and then if you look at the deployment YAML file, so which is actually nothing but inside the templates folder. Let me go to deployment.yaml file. So this is where we are going to mention our container port. There you go. So currently it says 80, but we are going to say 8080. So let me just mention that as well. So that's it, right? These two changes, what we will be doing as part of our code. So let me save this also. So again, right, I know it's a very simple use case. We are just picking up a Springboot application, then deploying into AKS cluster. I'm not using all the Kubernetes resources. I'm not using service account or anything like that. But feel free to modify whatever based on your requirement. Okay, very good. So I made changes in two different files. So why don't we quickly go ahead and then check in these files, right? So let me do one thing. Let me clear the screen. I'm going to say git status here. It's going to show me these two files got modified. Hang on, let me see here. Did I save? Okay, there you go. So we are able to see the whole folder got created, right? Very good. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and then add that, right? I'm going to say git add. I'm going to add this folder. Perfect. So if I say git status, there you go. So all the files will be checked in. Okay, very good. Let me go ahead and then commit. So I mean, what I'm trying to do is I'm creating this Helm chart, and I'm also storing that Helm chart as part of my code base. But it is up to you. Your company may follow a separate Helm repo. So in that case, you will be committing all the Helm files for that respective application inside that Helm repo, right? But again, you can follow whatever the best practice your company is following. But in my case, it's a very simple deployment. I'm actually storing all the Helm related files as part of the source code itself. Okay, perfect. So let me go ahead and then say created Helm chart for Springboot app. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and then perform git push. Okay, so I do see it's rejecting. Okay, I think I may not have latest code. So I'm performing git pull. I'm going to go ahead and then merge. And then finally I'm going to say git push. Perfect. Okay, so if I go back into my repo, we should be able to see. There you go, guys. There you see here. So this is the Helm charts what we just created, and then we also made few changes. So as you can see here, I updated the image name here, and then I leave this open, and then I also updated in the values.yaml file, I also update, in templates deployment file, deployment manifest file, I also made sure that this is updated, right? And then as you can see here, obviously, right, it's gonna pull wherever it is, right? Everything is kind of connected. That's a great thing about Helm chart. You don't have to do anything. You make changes in one file, and then it has a way of referring them from respective file. Perfect. So our Helm chart is been created, and then we were able to update the Helm chart as well. Perfect. That's awesome, actually. So let me go back to the implementation steps. So we are pretty much done here. So now why don't we go ahead and then check on our all our resource creation. Wow. See here, guys. Let me expand this. Wow. See here. So I'm able to see even namespace got created. I think pretty much all the resources got created. This is amazing. So like I said, this actually took less than 5 minutes for sure. No doubt about that. All right. So why don't we go ahead and then check all our resources are created or not. So let me perform few kubectl command. Let me go ahead and then say kubectl get nodes. There you go. So as you can see here, we are creating 2 worker node, and of course you can see in my shell script that we are creating 2 worker node. Perfect. Okay, very good. And then let me also see here. Of course, if you say pod, there's nothing is there, right? We never executed anything, we never deployed anything. And then let me try to get the namespace name. There you go. So of course these are all system default namespaces, but we have created this one, Helm deployment. Perfect. So far so good. Very good. And then let me see here, right? And then of course if you want to check on the ACR, you can go into Azure portal. Okay, click on the resource groups. So if you remember, this is the resource group name what we had created, correct? So if you look at the shell script, so this is the resource group name. So all the resources would be created under that resource. There you go. So this is our repo name, and then this is our AKS cluster. Perfect. So far so good. All we have to do is log it into our Azure DevOps dashboard, and then start creating the build pipeline, and then start creating the release pipeline. So far so good, right? Okay, so let me log in into my Azure DevOps dashboard. So this is my Azure DevOps dashboard. I have already created a organization, whatever you call. I have already not organization, I already created a project dashboard under that. Okay, so I'm going to go to pipeline. So let's start creating a build pipeline, right? So I'm going to actually go ahead with the classic pipeline. Okay, in this video. Maybe I can create a separate video where we can talk about how to automate this using YAML pipeline. Okay, but let's try to understand the process, right, by using a classic pipeline. So let me click on new pipeline. Okay, so I'm going to go with the classic editor. Okay, so where is our source code? Our source code is in GitHub. So click on that one. So I have already created a service connection for GitHub. Okay, so all I have to do is just select on this, click on this 3 dot, and then select my repository. So this is my repository, a Docker Springboot. So let me copy that repo name, and then just type here. It should able to pull up. There you go. So this is my repo name. Click on that one. Click on select. And what is the branch name? I think the branch name is master. Perfect. So we are good with that. Go ahead and then click on continue. Very good. So now it is asking us to select a template. So what I'm going to do, since we are going to use Helm, I'm going to go ahead and then type Helm here. There you go, right? You see here. So that's a great thing about Microsoft. They have already created a template for us to use. So, this is a great way of, creating a pipeline with a set of predefined tasks, and then you can customize the way you want. So let me go ahead and then click on apply. So if you see here, as you can see, it's going to say build a container image, push into specified container registry. After the push is complete, package the Helm chart, and then publish it as an artifact, right? So that's exactly what we are trying to do. So click on apply. There you go. So as I was saying, it has created this pipeline with all the tasks pre-populated. All we have to do is, just start customizing one by one. Okay. All right. So if you see here, let's try to take care of all the red mark here. So obviously we need to first select the agent. Do not select Windows agent. Okay. It is recommended to use any Linux agent. So I'm going to go with Ubuntu latest. Perfect. Okay. and then click on get source. So we already took care of that. And then let's try to review the task one by one, right? So it's going to build the image, push the image into ACR, and then install Helm. This is not needed, okay? We don't need to initialize Helm. This is actually part of Helm version 2, but we are going to use Helm version 3. So I'm going to remove this task, okay? We don't need this at all. Okay, and then we will come back to this task. We are going to customize this anyway. So if you see here, there is no jar file task, right? Like, there is no way of building the jar file, right? So it's very simple. Just click on add task and then add. Okay, so let's add this task. Okay, and then I'm going to move this up. Okay, there you go. Okay, so let's customize this. So click on the 3 dots. Okay, so pom.xml file. So that's our repo. Okay, and then I'm going to say clean install. Okay, perfect. Okay, and then this particular task is going to build the Docker image. Okay, so let's select the Azure subscription. Okay, so that is my Azure subscription. Okay, so there you go. It's already scoped. And then what is my Azure Container Registry? Just select this drop down. There you go. So that is our Azure Container Registry name. And then I'm going to leave everything as it is. Okay. And then the way it is going to build the image, it is going to have a repository name and then the build ID, right? So that's exactly what we have specified as part of our, values.yaml file, right? If you see here, the ACR name, right? And then the repo name, right? Okay, so that's exactly what we have, right? So that's what it is. Okay, it's up to you. So if you are changing here, then of course you also need to go back and then change, in your values.yaml file, right? So you also need to modify, which is nothing but over here. So depending on however you are, building your Docker image, so you'll have to modify here, and then of course the tag as well. Okay, perfect. So let's go back. So I'm going to leave everything default, but if you like to build the latest tag also, if you want, you can also do that. So then in that case, it's going to create 2 tags, one with the the default, one with the build ID tag, and then it will also create a latest tag as well, but I don't want to use latest tag, so I'm going to leave it like that. Okay, and then this particular task is for pushing the Docker image into ACR. So very simple. Let's go ahead and then select our Azure subscription and then select our repo. Okay, and then I'm going to leave it like that. There you go. Same thing over here. While pushing, if you want to include the latest tag, you can do that, but I don't need that, so I'm going to leave it like that. Okay, and then finally this particular task is going to install Helm. So make sure you check this, because this is going to install the latest version of Helm, which is like 3 point something. So yeah, so make sure you check that. Perfect. And then look at this particular task. So basically what we are going to do is, after the image is created, right, after we push into ACR, so what we need to do is we need to package all our Helm files, right? So when I say package, means whatever the Helm chart, Helm chart we created, we want to package it this as a zip file, a tar file, whatever it is, right? So that's what this is going to do. And then in the release pipeline, we are going to refer that packaged artifact, and then we are going to go ahead and then deploy it. Okay, so we just need to provide the path. So if you see here, if you click on the drop down, you're going to see all the Helm commands, correct? But we want to package as part of the build pipeline. Okay, so click on the 3 dot. So let's select our chart directory. So this is a chart directory what we just created a few minutes ago. So I'm going to select that and then click on OK. You just have to provide the root of the directory. You don't have to select any files as such. So just leave it like that. And then let's keep going. Version, if you want, you can provide the version and all. I'm going to leave it as it is. That's fine. Destination. So it says that where it is going to, drop the file. So as you can see here, it is going to put it in the staging area, right? Staging directory. And then if you click on the artifact task, publish artifact task, and it's going to pick up from there, right? Okay. And then it is going to make sure that it is available for the Azure pipeline. Okay. Perfect. So that's pretty much over there. But before I save and queue, let me go and review my instructions. So I have provided pretty much all the steps documented here. So you can always verify, right? If you're missing anything, there you go. So we provided that. We already removed this one. We provided the, the chart directory here. Perfect. Okay, so this is also good. Perfect. I think so far so good. All we have to do is just go ahead and then click on save and queue. All right, so let me do that. Save and queue. Okay, and click on save and run. So it might take maybe 45 to 60 seconds. Let's see. So we have selected Ubuntu as the build agent, so that's a good thing. Wow. See here guys, it took about 56 seconds to complete the entire activity. Very good. So there you go. So if you see here, this is the chart package name, right? So this is how we have packaged it. Okay, very good. And then of course you can also see the Docker image as well. There you go. Do you see here? And of course we can verify whether the Docker image has been pushed into ACR, right? So why don't we do that? Let's click on the repo name. Okay, ACR repo name, and then go to repositories under services. And then you see here, so this has created this entry, and then click on it, build, as you can see here. Wonderful. Okay, awesome. So let's go back. Let's go back to our pipeline. So our build pipeline has been created, and it has been, it has executed what it's supposed to do. Okay, very good. So now we are going to move on to the next step, where we are going to go ahead and then create a release pipeline. Okay, fantastic. Let's go back to our pipeline. Okay, so I'm going to click on releases here. Let's click on new pipeline. So you can click on new release pipeline. Okay, so here it is asking for the template again, right? So again, choosing the template is recommended. So let me go ahead and then type Helm. Okay, there you go. So I'm going to go ahead and then use this particular Helm task. Okay, let me just make sure. There you go. You see here. So you type Helm and then you are going to use that particular template. Okay, so let's select this template, and as you can see here, this will take care of deploying Springboot application inside AKS, inside cluster using Helm chart. So click on apply. Okay, and then if you want, you can customize this task. You can say AKS deploy. Okay, just the stage name. Okay, perfect. Now the first step would be this is a release pipeline, right? So we need to add an artifact. So the source for this pipeline would be our CI pipeline, right? Our build pipeline. So if I remember correctly, I think this is our pipeline name. Let me verify that. Just want to make sure that is right. Let me just add it, and then we'll go ahead and verify. So let me make sure. I know I have a couple of pipelines over there. So if you see here, there you go. So this is our pipeline, right? I know I would have done a good naming convention there, but if you want to change your pipeline name, it's very simple. You can go ahead and then change your pipeline name right here if you want. Actually, why don't we do that? I'm going to say my pipeline for Springboot. Okay, and then I will say Helm as well. Okay, let me save. Just saved it. Okay, and then if I go back to my, so let me refer again. There you go. You see here? Okay, perfect. Add. Very good. Okay, all right. So now we have to go ahead and then customize our pipeline tasks. So click on this one. So there you go. So it has created 3 different tasks as part of selecting the template. And if you want, you can rename the pipeline. So let's rename the release pipeline. I'm going to say my pipeline. Okay, job. Perfect. Okay, so let's start customizing it. So click on the stage name, and if you see here, yes, we have to select our Azure subscription. Perfect. And then select the resource group. There you go. And then select our Kubernetes cluster name, our AKS cluster name. Perfect. We are good with that. Okay, wonderful. Let me see here. Yeah, let's go back here and then click on the agent. So again, right, I would choose Ubuntu. So click on Azure pipeline, like host Azure pipeline, right, and then select Ubuntu. Okay, very good. And then yeah, so this you can leave it as it is. Install. We need to have Helm install on that agent, and then we don't need this task. Okay, so you don't need this task at all. So you can remove it. Helm init, we don't need it. That is part of Helm version 2. Okay, so this is where we are actually interested in, right? So what we have to do here, we have to choose. Okay, so we need to choose our the package chart file, right? But before that, let's try to make sure few other changes are taken care. So you see here, it is asking for the namespace name. So if you remember, we have created a namespace, correct? I think if you see here, yeah, there you go. Okay, so this is our namespace. So let's copy that Helm deployment, and let's go to the release pipeline. Just mention that. Okay, very good. And then the command, yeah, you can leave it. Upgrade is fine. And then it is asking for the file path, right? Chart type file path. So yeah, so yes, we have already created. We already packaged our chart file. So you're gonna select file path and then click on this 3 dots and simply go to the drop location here, and then you select our chart. That's it. Package chart file. That's it. That's all we have to do. And click on OK. Very good. And then it is asking for the version. So version, remember we did not mention anything, so I'm going to leave it like that. And then it is asking for the release name. So you can give any name, again, depending on your release. You can say my release or whatever. So that's fine. And then, yeah, okay, so this is where it gets interesting, right? Set values. So if you remember, if you look Kubernetes manifest file, one of the manifest file, if you look at values.yaml file, if you remember, you see here, we are not using latest tag or anything like that, right? Because we are going to override, okay? We are going to override the tag from the pipeline itself. So the way we are going to override the, the Docker images, if you see here, the Docker tag is, if you look at the build pipelines, remember we have added some tag, right? So which is actually nothing but here, I'll show you. So remember, so we are doing that, right? So remember, we are just tagging with the build ID. You see here, right? So all we have to do is we just have to go here, go to the release pipeline, and then just mention like that, image tag equal to the build ID. Okay, so which is actually nothing but, again, you go here. So if you see here, all these are build numbers, right? So we are tagging based on the build ID, and then we are just picking up that or doing a deployment, right? So that's all. So this is very important. If we don't do this, then pipeline, it will deploy, but it will not be able to download the image from ACR properly. Okay, so that's it, right? That's pretty much over there. Let me go back and then verify everything. I think everything is good. Rest everything you can leave it as it is. Wonderful. Okay. All right. So let me save the release pipeline. Oh, before that, so if you see here, you also have option to trigger this, right? If you want to trigger the release pipeline right after the build pipeline has been built, so you can enable this if you like. Okay. So whenever the build pipeline completes, it will automatically trigger the release pipeline. So if you want to enable that, you can very well do that. Okay. All right. So let me save it. Okay, so now we have created our release pipeline. So all we have to do is go ahead and then create the release. So let me click on create release. Okay, and then click on create. There you go. So click on the release 1. Fantastic. So right now it is in the process of picking up from the queue. Let's see. Perfect. So you can see here, it downloaded the artifact, the Helm chart files. So you can see this one. Okay, so something is wrong. So release name is invalid. Okay, let me see. Okay, I think I might have a different. Okay, I think it does not like that naming convention. So let me go ahead and then say first. Okay, let me give some name. Okay, I think that should be fine. Okay, let me go ahead and then click on create release again. Okay, so currently it is in the process of deploying. Wow, look at here, guys. So Helm upgrade task was able to deploy successfully into AKS cluster. Okay, look at that. It says that release does not exist. Trying to install now. Deployed. Okay, it also created a revision as well. Perfect. Okay, so how do you check this? It's very simple. Let's go into our Kubernetes cluster. So I'm going to say kubectl gets pod, and then of course we need to pass on the namespace name. Don't forget. There you go, guys. Look at here. You all see that? So we are able to see the pod name, right? So this is the pod name. Okay, so we just created one pod. So we are able to see the pod, and then it says that pod is running, and then like it's been like what, almost like 50 seconds. Perfect. So now how do you access the pod? So but before that, let's check few things. Let me go to describe kubectl describe pod, and then mention the pod name. Okay, and then mention the namespace name. So sometime if your pod is not coming up, so what you can do, you can go inside the pod, just check the pod logs. Okay, so this will tell you whether your pod is running or not, but we are good, right? So our pod is running perfect. Okay, so now we are going to perform kubectl port forward, because we want to access the Springboot application locally in our machine. So it's very simple. So how do you do that? So we are going to use kubectl port forward command. Okay, port forward, and then you just have to mention the pod name. Okay, so what is our pod name? So this is our pod name. Okay, and then colon 8080, and then just mention the namespace name. Okay, there you go. So it says that it's forwarding to localhost 8080. So I'm going to open up a browser. Wow, see here, guys. So this is our Springboot application, which has been deployed inside AKS cluster using Helm. You see here? So we are able to see this application which is deployed in AKS cluster, but we are able to access locally because we did use port forward. So yeah, so that's it, guys. That's how you would deploy your application into AKS cluster. That's how you would deploy your Springboot application inside AKS cluster using Helm. Before I let you all go, folks, last but not the least, it is also important that we need to clean up the resources as well, right? So I also have a command in order to achieve that. So if you go to the bottom of my web page of that particular article, you see here. So we also need to clean up the resources. So that's a great thing about Azure CLI. All you have to do is just delete the resource group. When you delete the resource group, everything else as part of the resources will be deleted, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and then perform this particular command. So this will take care of deleting all the resources under that resource group. All right. So yeah, so that's all, guys. That's all we have for this particular demo. Thank you for watching this video.